Okay, so this is the National League of American Pen Women Central Ohio group, and we are doing a collaboration roundtable discussing our collaboration works. And I'm going to share my screen here so that we can, each present. And Anne, did you want to start with yours?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
I actually had the honor.
Okay.
Oh, I lost it.
You lost it? Can you see the work here?
Now, yes, I see it now.
Okay. Okay. So, Anne, did you want to start?
Okay. I actually got to collaborate with 3 different members, actually, 4 different members. I was going to start with Deb, but I'll go on with Jennifer Hambrick and Evangelia Philippidis. What happened was that Jennifer writes that they couldn't be here today, so I'm reading what they wrote. In 2019, the Sunday at Central Concert Series commissioned me, that's Jennifer, to write a series of poems for a live performance of The Four Seasons by Antonio Vivaldi. My poems respond to Vivaldi's timeless violin concertos and are intensely subjective, while also giving voice to the universal human experience of relational cycles situated within the metaphorical context of the cycles of nature. The current collaboration extends that original collaboration. Evangelia wrote, forging a collaboration among 3 strong creative women can seem a daunting endeavor, especially when they specialize in such diverse arts. When I first read Jennifer's poetry, images unfolded within my mind like gifts from a celestial soul. Nature herself is the endless universal cycle, bringing forth maturing, reclaiming, and recreating all of life through the seasons. Like Evangelia, I myself was overcome by Jennifer's writing. What? These poems were about nature, spectacular nature, raw nature, nature the comic, nature moving obsessively with rhythm, not pausing to correct her flaws, but ever moving forward through the seasons out of a fullness of creative energy. So Dawn asked me about my process, and really I can only speak for my process. After I read the poems, I was just swept away, and I called Jennifer, and I actually found that I had been reading even more into them than she had intended, but that's how poetry is, isn't it? I went to it, it just, as I said, overwhelmed me, and I was compelled to letter very freely. I didn't want to attempt to correct my writing, so I used a colored pencil, black, that had enough softness and enough hardness that would allow me to do pressure and release in the writing and just free me in my writing emotionally to the music as that was playing. I didn't return to correct any flaws. I figured this is the way nature is. She moves along, and a flower may have an imperfect petal, but she doesn't correct it. So I went through the whole thing, each of the 4 seasons. This is autumn that you're seeing on the screen. So as Jennifer said, the current collaboration extends this collaboration into a second phase and into the realm of graphical representation. But it really didn't end there. The beauty of this exhibit is that the graphical representations of the 4 poems, imagery in flowing words and visuals was just a part of it. The Arts Center's addition of QR codes has made viewers' experience of our collaboration one of dynamic surround. Jennifer and I wrote, as Jennifer reading weaves voice, the sound of the human voice and the music through Vivaldi's music. So it's a whole experience around you of sound and voice and visuals and, the movement of the lettering and the movement within the visuals. So bravo for them. I mean, I'm so excited about QR codes now that I think we should work more on that. So that is the collaboration with Jennifer and Evangelia. Did you want me to go on to the other two that I did and let the others speak, Dawn, about their part in it? Okay, I'll just go ahead. I collaborated also with Deb Anderson. Deb approached me early on about collaborating on the exhibit on something. I was eager, after all, she is my sponsor, but at that point I was only a letters member and I didn't know what I could contribute. Even when Dawn, I think it was Dawn, suggested we vote on a nursery rhyme as one springboard to creative effort, I actually abstained from voting. Is it possible to get that image up of what Deb and I did, Dawn? In any case, I didn't vote because I had no favorite. There you go. No, that's the one with Bev. And I was deep into getting my application together. But when the group chose Hey Diddle Diddle, a light bulb suddenly went off for me. There you go. It has always struck me that nursery rhymes pack a lot more didactic weight than is generally accorded them, often thinly veiling less than comfortable truths about human behavior. And this one seemed particularly suggestive now. Tailor-made for commentary on HB6 and what may well prove Ohio's most infamous political scandal in a century. I scribbled a couple of verses on a napkin and started working on it and sent Deb an early draft. I'll let her describe her process on the quilt she created. I myself wrote and rewrote and worked on it, and having finally also earned arts membership, I mounted and actually was able to letter a title for the 3 stanzas that accompanied Deb's quilt in the exhibit. But in fact, this too hasn't ended there. The details of dark money dealings buried in the passage of that bill that continue coming to light, reading about this incredible scandal, have already inspired 2 additional verses so far. So I don't know, Deb, did you want to say something about how you worked on the quilt? Deb, are you there? I don't know. I don't hear Deb. I'm not hearing anyone.
Deb, I think you're muted.
What? I'm not muted.
No,
Yeah, I
Deb
think
is.
that's-
Deb
Deb,
is, Deb, you'll have to go
There I
to
am.
your,
Okay,
yeah,
unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an image. The
No.
information is,
Oh, the
yeah.
image is by Racket Rhythms. Should be an image of her quilt.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
There it
there isn't an image
Oh.
of her quilt on here. I'm really
Oh,
sorry, Deb.
okay,
Um,
well, but you can leave the description. Oh, well,
yeah,
oh,
the
the nursery rhyme, the rhythm of the nursery rhyme sparked 2 things. I mean, I end up doing several pictographs, so to speak, in my image, and then the rest, the rhythm of the ditty sparked some shapes, and it's almost as though the shapes are part of a font, or they're all in the same style. Rounded amoeba kind of shapes with some sharp corners to go with the poem. So you just have to look at it at the show. So it was just a matter of the rhythms and shapes and pictographs. But the heat transfers is something I've done for almost 30 years, which, believe it or not, it was Anne who taught me how to do that.
yeah.
You just go over to Kinko's with your images and voila, you'll get transfer sheets with your images. And so I've been doing that for 30 years. I can't believe it. And now the machines are so hot that I can't do it. It's done a different way with different technology. So fortunately, before I moved, and cord camera was still in business. I had a lot of transfers made so that I have a stack of, it's sort of my stash of transfers. So in the future, I'll do more of the heat transfer kind of pieces. That's it.
Okay, thank
Deb,
you. Thank you so
Deb,
much.
they have your piece beautifully hanging from the ceiling too, so that you can see the back of it's almost as interesting as the front with all of your stitchery.
Oh,
And it looks like hand-dyed fabric on the back also.
it is. It
It's
all is.
beautiful.
Yeah. I
And
didn't
it-
hand dye it, but I
Oh, it's
purchased it.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And your poem is wonderful. It's so appropriate for current events. I loved it.
It is. It is. Yeah. It's a great collaboration. So, and yeah, and you guys did such a beautiful job of kind of winding your own voices into the
Whoops.
works. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Bev, I'm gonna attempt to get your piece up. For some reason, I'm having trouble.
Okay, may I just
Oh,
add
wait,
one
wait,
note?
Anne has another thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
let me just say that when, the nice thing about this collaboration is when I sent the first verses to Deb, she laughed. And that was great support and encouragement, so it was fun to do it. I also, because I have to leave pretty soon, and I think Deb wants to speak first, and then I'll talk about collaborating with her. Is that all right?
You mean Bev?
Oh,
Did you mean Bev or Deb?
Bev Goldie.
Okay.
Okay.
Somebody's muted here. I don't hear Bev.
Dawn? Oh, no, yeah.
Bev
You
Goldie.
at first you said Deb, so I just wanted to make sure that
No, Bev.
you were. So
Okay.
she's going to pull up, I did a quick little PowerPoint of different images that came together for that particular piece. And I'll start out with Anne's piece.
Okay. So I had it on my screen and then I lost it. So I'm gonna bring it up again. Okay, can everybody see
There
that?
it is. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, but that's
So,
not, okay.
that's not it.
Well, that's it, but
Open and
can we
Google Slides?
scroll down to the one with Jan?
Okay, okay. Let's see.
Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. There it stops, stop.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
Great.
You can go up 2 images to the Suminagashi piece.
this one right
Right.
here. Okay.
Yes. So the very first meeting that Anne came to was at the Worthington Library, and she was telling us about some of the different marbling techniques that she did. And one of them sounded so interesting that we talked about maybe ways that she could incorporate that into different art forms. And I came right up to her, I go, oh, this looks like that would be something wonderful to incorporate into encaustics, because you can add translucent things on top of it and still see the different marbling effects of the paper. And I was hoping that the paper that was used would be the kind that was absorbent enough to be used with encaustics. So the piece, do you see my cursor on top of it? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the paper itself, and it's more white, but I had it on a dark surface. So if you could scroll down 1. So I started out, I tore the paper into different layers just because I like different shapes of it, and I wanted the shapes to kind of make some kind of a pattern or flow in a different way on the piece I was making. And you can see the thermos bottle there next to it with very similar colors. Well, that was my inspiration for the color palette that I was doing, because I really didn't know what colors to use and I didn't have anything specific in mind. So since that thermos bottle had waving patterns kind of similar, I thought, I really like that. So I'm going to pattern it a little bit after that. So I left that middle section blank. And then if you can scroll down to the next slide there. So I filled in that middle section with opaque wax, and then had some fun just throwing some wax on to make those dots and very, I'll use Deb's term, amoeba-like shapes, but more like waves and things.
Mhm.
And it still needed something else. So the darker sections, I used graphite powder, which kind of, it played nicely with the graphite-like images of the Suminagashi, but it was a little bit darker when you add the wax. So it was a perfect foil to the dark, to make kind of shadow sections, but keeping with the Suminagashi shapes and colors. And then the very last thing is that little silver wire knot. If you can stay on that piece for a sec, the little silver knot there. I work in the Cultural Arts Center in a section where it's right next to the jewelry making section. And they have a lot of leftover silver and copper and nice little things that I'm allowed to just take out of their bin and use anytime. So it just made the piece, and naming it wavelengths, kind of that little knot of silver there kind of reminded me of something otherworldly, or maybe an antenna from some kind of outer space object. So wavelengths came where the person who was viewing it could interpret that any way they wanted. It could be an ocean, it could be waves like a microwave that was going across different shapes and patterns, or it could be how people connect with each other, maybe in outer space. So it left a lot to the imagination for whoever was viewing it. And if you scroll down to the next thing, after I'd finished doing this piece, I actually learned how to do Suminagashi at the Dublin Art Council. I mean, they had this day of discovery that was so much fun. And when I saw that it was Suminagashi, I go, oh my gosh, I would love to see how that's done. And they actually let you do it. So I got to learn, and I appreciate what Anne does, and how many different ways and directions you could go with that. So I would love for Anne to maybe read what she wrote about the piece. If you could scroll back up to that for a sec. Oops, no. To the
Suminagashi.
middle, with the one under the thermos bottle.
Yeah, I don't have that label with me, Bev, but I do have a copy. Bev was kind enough to let me write a label next to it, which if you go to the exhibit, you should read and enjoy. But she also suggested I write something up about Suminagashi. And I had written 2 books on marbling on acrylic and watercolor the previous year, and I'd been toying with writing something about Suminagashi, but I hadn't done it, and Bev gave me the kick in the pants I needed. And so I came up with a book, which should be, I think was on Dawn's screen, and I did it in two versions. Let's see if that will come up. There it is. It was back a bit. Just saw it a moment ago. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What did I go past it?
I think you may have, because I think it was with the other collaborations, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
There it is.
There.
There you go.
Yay.
There we
Thank
go.
you so much. Thank you. So there's the label too. But the 2 books that I came up with, here's the first one, actually has tipped in Suma Nagashi in color. Let me pull out one. There you go. Some, they're done in color on washi paper. If I can just show that. And they have an acid-free cover on them. You know, plus the text, whereas these other standard edition is just a Xerox copy of the text of the philosophy behind Suma Nagashi, which is so different from Western marbling. And also things happenstance in Suma Nagashi. And I was fortunate enough to find in one of mine the cover, which looks like a crane climbing to the sky. And in the other, a kind of water bird, a duck, some people say another animal. But if you look at it closely, you can see that it does seem to have an image of nature. It's all based on the Japanese sense of our place in nature. So Bev, thank you for that opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. And I want to get one of those.
It took me 6-7 months to put these little books together, only about 20 of them, but they're really a pain, you know, it's folding and then mounting and the sewing and all that. And every so often I would find I'd left a page out and have to redo it. So that's my fault. But anyway, please take advantage of the sign that says, please browse. So take a copy of the book and read it. It's not that long, or look through it and see about the first part tells you about the philosophies. So I think that will be very meaningful to all of us. So I think that's it. Any other questions? Bev, anything I should say further?
No, nope.
I can read that label, but I can't read it on that screen. So I apologize.
Great. All right. Bev, did you want to talk about any of your other collaborations?
Sure, if you just want to go down.
Okay.
The next piece that is in the exhibition is named Art Appreciation 101. And I think some of you have already seen this photo, but the top picture here is the actual photo, and underneath it is the encaustic that was made from it. And first of all, the backstory is one of our meetings was at the Pizzuti Gallery. The very first month that it opened up, our group went to go see it. And in the front, right before you go to the front entrance, is this sculpture. It's no longer there, and I wonder why. But these ladies from our group were standing in front of it giggling, and I just thought it was hysterical. And I asked them, hey, would you mind posing for a second for a photo? This would be really fun. When I count to 3, make a pose of whatever you'd like for your expression. So this is what happened. And it was just, I loved it. And especially Ann Hansen looking at the camera like, are you kidding me? I mean, so for making the actual visual, making it more visually pleasing, the piece above, I actually hand painted some sections to get rid of, there were leaves on the ground. The windows in the back had shades on them. So I painted them all out white. I put more blue on some of the windows in the background to make it not seem as, you can tell from the top to the bottom, just some very simple things to make it a little bit less distracting, that you were looking at the people and you were looking at the sculpture. And then with the encaustics, you can do a lot of texture. So you probably can't tell from this, but when you go to the exhibition, look at this up close, because the sculpture has a lot of texture and also metallic glitter on it. I don't want to say glitter. It has gold leaf types of things on it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for that piece. And I asked Rosemary Barkas, since she writes humor, if she would be able to do some prose with this, because I thought she would be the perfect person to come up with something really witty, because this was I mean, you want to talk about teeing something up for somebody. This picture was it. So she did a great job with the description, not the description, but kind of a little story to go with it. So when you're there, go right next to it and read her little reaction to the picture itself. Were there any questions about the piece at all before we go on?
I
you know,
just love
I
Marcia.
I know.
Yes,
I just think it's a
Marcia.
great piece. I really do. I love how your medium enhances the photograph too. So I thought that was, really well done. And then Rosemary's, writing is is amazing
It's
too.
funny.
So it's a great collaboration. Well done.
Yeah. Okay. And I got everyone's permission before I put this in a gallery. So Sherry and well, of course, you probably know that oh gosh, her name just
Green?
Shirley Green. Shirley Green has passed away
Oh,
in the last month, but Sherry gave me permission to have them in the picture. So she was delighted, and she said that mom would be looking down and saying yes. So if you could scroll down to the next down. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. To the so the other piece that I collaborated with Roseanne Callister, and it was about Sisters of Sednoia. And it was about immigrating to the United States from Syria. And when we talked together, she showed me all sorts of pictures that she had of her parents, which are it's the photo above, and it's a very large picture, and it's a very hand painted and dark, but it was an authentic picture, the only one that they had of them when they emigrated over. And then she also had this wall hanging underneath it that was mentioned in the book, and it talked about the language and how they learned English as soon as possible so that they could assimilate into the culture right away. So if you could scroll down some more. So I put that together in a piece with the parents in the middle, and I mixed around the letters throughout. And I had done a lot of research about Syria and immigrants and all sorts of things. And this picture, I just did not care for this piece. It was more of almost like a scrapbook rather than an artwork. And to me, it wasn't how I wanted to present my work. So I did another piece, if you could scroll down, that still incorporated the language, which I absolutely loved. And I did some research, if you could scroll up a little bit with that mosaic. That's an actual, if you could do the mosaic.
Which one? Oh, this
That
one.
one,
Right
that one, the horse.
that's
the horse.
beautiful.
That's an actual mosaic from Mesopotamia, which was the Euphrates Valley, which is where Syria is. And so there was very little to go on to incorporate different artwork, but I really loved this piece because of the colors, and it still had that ancient look to it. So I incorporated all of this on cracked plaster, which is a new medium that I was using with the encaustics, because not only was cracked plaster showing something archived and something older, but also encaustics are from that region, and it's an ancient art that dates back 2,000 years. So it all tied together. If you can scroll down. So I made that, I incorporated the horse so that it looked like it was part of that wall, that cracked plaster wall. And I just loved the Arabic language is just a beautiful thing to look at. And I thought, still tying it together with the English language next to it, so that you could kind of tell there was some assimilation going on there. And then the cracked sections that some of it was pulled out. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit with this piece about the culture of Syria with the current events, how it's all going away because of the destruction of the Syrian, there's a civil war there, and then the brutal dictatorship of Bashar there. So it all tied together with this one piece that we had a long talk together with Roseanne, just because I asked her, I was begging her if she would mind if I used this instead of the other piece, because I just spoke so much more volumes of what was happening currently, and with her book a little bit too, about assimilation from Syria. And there's little bits of copper in there too that if you can see it in the gallery up close, it really has a lot of detail. So so anyway, that's it. It was a real adventure, and it all really came together. It almost painted itself.
So I have a question for you, Bev.
Yes.
Did any of the work that you did with this piece, has any of it translated into your new work that you're doing, like, or any of the
No.
techniques, or
Nope.
but maybe down the road?
Nope. Yes, because I absolutely love the cracked plaster, and I will still continue to do other pieces with that, because I really, really liked it, and I like the effects that you can get with it. But the thing that I got the grant for, that's with the other piece that I have that's not a collaboration. That's the first piece that I'm doing of that series, that other series.
That's great. So that sparked that too then. Great. Okay, I am going to try to get back to that other screen. Oh, here we go. And Peg, did you want to, or did anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to ask Bev, I found the label, if she wanted me to read that short paragraph on the piece that we did.
Sure.
Okay,
Okay.
I just wrote, look carefully at what she has done, how she has not just incorporated its natural forms of the Suminagashi into her design, but also enhanced it with a blend of color, line, movement, and brilliant control of wax. And so then that we went on from there. I also wanted to say, unfortunately, I have to leave, and I hope to be able to see the rest of this afterwards. So
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. It's been great. I love being part of the group. It's so creative. Thank you again. Okay, we'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Anne.
Okay. So Peg, I'm gonna let you have the mic. And where would you like to start then? Would you like to start with the collaboration with me, or if I can find it? I'm sorry I have to scroll here. You can see we have quite a bit of collaborations in this. I put them all together for this this PDF that we were doing with for the show. It's itself, for the gallery people, so they knew which ones were collaboration. So I'm sorry that I'm scrolling, but I will get to it. Here we go. So and see if I can make it any bigger. I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Okay, Peg, and you'll need to unmute yourself, or I could try to do it. Or do you know how to unmute?
There,
There you go.
there, right. Let's show
Okay.
your painting first.
Okay. So let's see. Okay. So there it is.
There it is. say how big it is.
It's 36 inches by 36 inches.
This, had mentioned to Dawn that I would be willing to write about any one of her pieces if she wanted. And so she had this one in mind and showed it to me. And so the first thing I did was really study the photograph, or study the artwork, and then go to what I saw in the painting. I put a list of things that are embedded in the painting. And then I wrote what I saw. And then I listed all the items that I saw in the painting, and then gave each one a description, and then put a verb in with its description. And when then we went to a printer to find someone who could print on stretched canvas. And so I'll read to you, if you want to go back to the painting, I'll read to you what I wrote.
Okay.
It's not a poem, it's a reflection. I called it Magic Moments. In the glow of a tangerine sunset, she views her former self seated at the water's edge. Images of her past life flow freely like the water between her toes. Memories take shape, magically transporting her to what was. She sees a plastic crown emerging from her third birthday party, a school bus appearing that ushered her proudly into first grade. The shattered eyeglass lens, a shattered eyeglass lens hangs in its frame. One playing card awaits its opponent in her favorite game of war. A lost Lego lays fallen from a castle wall. A toy soldier guards the area. A necklace and a bracelet matched from her dress-up days. A bottle cap pops away from its bottle. A toppled tiara sparkles. A stiff-armed paperclip and safety pins await duty. A hospital bracelet looms from her birthday. The winning soccer ball rests after the game. Visiting deer and curious rabbit watch woodland and water's images disappear downstream to another's magic moments. So this is what I saw the little girl seeing, and it's not a poem, it's a reflection.
I really enjoyed it, Peg, when it's in the front hall as you walk in there. And
Yes.
it wasn't until I read your poem that I was actually looking for all those little bits and pieces. And it was like, oh, here it is. Oh, I didn't even notice that one. And, so it's really fun to have those side by side. And then how you described everything, it just added to it so much. And it was a wonderful collaboration. It really was.
Dawn, you want to add what you did after I wrote?
Yeah. So it really was a dual collaboration. I mean, I had painted this maybe a couple years ago, and it was originally based on my daughter, but after a while, it didn't become my daughter anymore. It was a little girl on the edge. And my original title was Pastoral Monologues, because I felt like each of the, that maybe the deer and the girl and the water all had different things to say in the scene. And so I was really interested to see how Peg would react to this and what she would take out of it. And she made it more about how the girl's memories with the objects in the painting. And I thought that was a great take. So then when she had written her piece, I went ahead and printed out what she had written, and I cut up some of the words and I actually embedded them back into my painting. So I kind of would put it in there, and then I, maybe cover over with some thin layers of paint to kind of make it seem like it's floating in the piece. So that wasn't originally there. Those words that you'll see in the show were not there before. And another thing is, that wasn't there before is that Peg talks about a deer and a rabbit, or was it a rabbit or a bunny? Did you say rabbit?
Rabbit, rabbit.
And I didn't have a rabbit in the original painting. So when she had mentioned that, I went back in and I painted in a rabbit. So it really was kind of a collaboration between the two of us. You know, her initial reaction to my painting and then my reaction to her painting. And I even retitled my painting to, I believe it's Tangerine Sunset, based
Yes.
on the words that she had written. So it was really fun. And, you know, she came over and took some pictures of the piece and looked for all the objects and things like that. So, you know, I had a visit from her to, you know, to do that too. It was a lot of fun to do that together. So I really enjoyed that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about any of your other ones?
And if we have time,
You know, maybe just briefly. I know Darlene's here, so maybe Darlene
Yeah.
could talk about, you could talk with Darlene about this next, if Darlene, if you want to talk about it. I don't know if you feel comfortable or not.
this was a poem I had written several years ago when we were in, what is Edison's place? Greenfield Village. We were touring Greenfield Village and we visited the boarding house where all the workers stayed. And as I was passing through, I saw my face in the mirror from this woman's bedroom. And then this is what I wrote, called In Her Mirror. My face upon her looking glass becomes woman from the past. Touring her home of yesteryears, I feel her strength and know her tears. Within her crude household of colorful quilts and candle mold, pot-filled hearth, the tie-back drapes, I see what history's woman creates. Borders, dressers, and rope-tied beds, tables, benches where men once fed, tiny kitchen, one woman's larder, widow, seamstress, cook, and gardener. What did she dream? Did she sew an easier life into a seam of a dress, a hat, a cape? How did she escape? As I enter here, others draw near, yet the wind carries into my hand a sapphire feather from her dresser hat stand. Her face mirrors mine with a gift transcending time. The feather, our kinship born in her looking glass. We smile, I nod, and solemnly pass.
Hmm.
And what Darlene did was take and make a sapphire feather.
Yes. So this was in Peg's book. That poem was in her book, and of all the poems in the book, that one really struck me the most. And so I learned a new technique called cyanotype. It's a cameraless way of photographing objects. So the background is simply watercolor paper, and I taped it off to keep, so when you do cyanotype, you mix your own chemicals and you make fabric or paper, whatever it is, you sensitize that to light. Sun becomes the light. So I taped off the background that I knew was going to be the feather so light wouldn't reach that. That's the white border. Then I sensitized fabric because, you know, Peg in her poem did talk about the sewing and, you know, the curtains and so it occurred to me that it should have fabric in it. So I sensitized the fabric. I put those together and I took a feather and exposed that to light, which created the feather, but the soft parts of the feather just spilled onto the paper, which is exactly what I wanted. Then I frayed the edge of the fabric. So you can't tell it in this photo, but you can see it hanging off the paper a little bit, but when you see it in person, edges of the fabric have frayed to look like they're part of the feather itself. So this is the sapphire feather from her hat stand that flew into Peg's hand.
I love how
Great.
I love how Peg, your writing mirrors Darlene's image as well. Just side by side, it's stunning together. So just visually so nice.
Yeah. Agree.
My other was with Jane Llewellyn, if you want to show it.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe just kind of a briefly.
Brief,
Let's see if I can
yeah.
find it. It might be up here. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay.
This is called From Empty Envelopes. I just wrote a synopsis to go with Jane's portrait. And my mother always wrote her grocery list and any kind of notes on the back of envelopes she'd already opened. So that was my inspiration, empty envelopes. And the story came from a prompt from one of my classes. It said, take somebody that's not like you and make them want the same thing you do. So I wrote a story about a homeless woman that wanted to be a writer. And I wrote this a few years ago, and I always wondered what she looked like. And so I got together with Jane and we went through the story. I sent her a copy of the story, and we went through pictures of homeless women and picked this one out to be Rosine is her name, Rodene. So Rosine then wrote stories on the back of empty envelopes. And the synopsis is of a story that came from a collection of short stories that I had entered. And that is where the story came from. So the book is there where you could buy the book and read the whole story.
It's a wonderful piece as well.
Yeah.
Does that look like a homeless woman to you?
Yes. Yes.
But she looks like she has a lot of wisdom and,
Mhm.
She was a former executive and became homeless because everything she owed a lot. People were at it for a lot of money after she retired, and she ended up with nothing.
Does anybody have any questions for Peg?
Oh, the end of my story is she goes to lunch at this homeless shelter every day, and they make fun of her because she's writing notes on empty envelopes. And so finally they take them away from her. And because they're teasing her, and she ends up losing them. And, but in the story, she regains her writing ability, and at the end, she takes one of her stories back to the soup kitchen, and they have a whole table full of empty envelopes for her.
Oh.
It is a great story, Peg. It really
That's
is.
wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, well, I would like to talk about my collaboration with Brenda Lehman, and I'm hoping I'm going the right direction to find it here. I wanted to do a collaboration based on a work of art, and it was this piece here, that was done by, and I always pronounce her name wrong. Is it Alice Shilley? Am I pronouncing that right?
So.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right.
Who is a former Penn woman and had a retrospective here at the Columbus Museum of Art, and just such wonderful work. And so my thought was we could highlight her as a former Penn woman and just her beautiful work and her contribution, and kind of do it based on our own experiences as well. So this was the piece that we both chose, that this wonderful image of a mother holding a child with another child looking out in the background. And I loved I loved this based on the light and the color. So we both had kind of a different take on it. I found a photograph that I had of myself with two of my children a long time ago, and I was sitting and reading a book to them, with my daughter on my lap and my son kind of looking on, and also had this filtered light coming through, and the colors, and it has some of my own style in it, my embedded objects and things like that. But I also wanted to infuse some of her into it. So it's a, kind of a softer image. It was just a kind of a fun thing to do, to kind of, as I was painting it, think about that other painting, and letting that kind of come through into my work. And then Brenda Lehman, she, a writer, and she wrote this beautiful poem. Oh gosh, let's see if I can read it. By whose hands the broom swept. And I'm not sure if I can read it. I'm sorry to say, I wish I would. Okay. I'm gonna attempt to, okay. Do you remember the hands of another, an artist or a sister, a father or a mother? Soft, warm feel of flannel that washed. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't, I'm really trying to see this, but I just can't read this. And I don't feel like I can give it justice, but she wrote this beautiful piece, and she actually got it published in the Pen Women magazine as well, after doing this, but kind of her own reflections on motherhood and nurturing, and all those things that were evoked in her through seeing this print as well. And so we got permission to use this piece in the show. We didn't want to disobey any copyright laws or anything. So Kenny Galleries is actually the executor of the Shilley estate, and they gave us permission to use the print, and so we got it printed and everything. So that's hanging up as well. So it has that in the middle, and then my piece on one side, and Brenda's on the other side. And I'm sorry, I can't read Brenda's poem. I wish she was here to read it herself, because it always is a little different when the writer actually does it herself, themselves. So that was a really fun collaboration. Does anybody have any questions or maybe comments on, and we can even talk about, any other collaborations that is in the show?
I would,
Sure.
what are is it called the QR codes? That you
Yes.
can hold your phone up to the painting?
Yes. So many of our there's many collaborations in the show where perhaps like an artist and a writer, or artist and a musician had done some collaborations, and the QR code is a code that the gallery helped us generate based on either the written, the spoken word, or a video, or the music. And what you would do when you go into the gallery is you hold your camera up to that QR code, and when you hold it up, it'll pop up that there a link that you can hit, and once you hit that link, then you can listen to the music, or hear the written word, or even see the video of that piece.
Yeah.
With it.
The first one in, it's a midnight at the moon over a castle.
Yes,
Oh, and the music that goes with that is really wonderful.
it is.
And
That's
so is the
beautiful.
one with Darlene's.
Sylvia's music.
Yes.
Sylvia Mill.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that-
Um, when I started collaborating with Sylvia, she invited me to her home and had a lot of, she's prolific, of course, and had a lot of music that I listened to. And I selected this particular one because of the lyrics. It's called "There's Still a Rural America," and I was really touched by the lyrics and decided that that was what I wanted to do. And I really like that people can stand there and listen to her music, which I find extremely moving,
Mhm.
and start fitting together what I'm showing in my, there's one stanza where she talks about people coming together in the little white churches in the country. And, so there's the little white church, and about the fields and the sky, and, all the pieces that I put in there. So I think the QR codes were a great way of showing how people collaborated and adding the music, because without the music, the pieces, it just doesn't, it just doesn't work. Just like what Anne and Evangelia and Jennifer did. I mean, when you hear it all together, it's just a whole different ball game.
Do you have to have a certain app on your phone?
Yes,
Oh,
but they're free. They're free, Deb. They're free, and a lot of places you can download them.
well, but how do I mean, what's the title of the app? I mean,
Oh,
this is what
it
drives me
usually
crazy.
it will work with your camera as well.
Yeah, I don't think you need a special app.
Yeah, if you just open your camera app as if you're going to take a picture of it, it'll pop up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
hooray.
So
Not another hoop to jump through.
I know.
Now you know how to read menus at most of the restaurants now, Deb.
Yeah.
Darlene, with this piece, did you have this image already? I know it's a photo encaustic. So
It's a
did you?
photo. Yeah, it's a photo encaustic. I have a lot of photographs of the land. In my website is called, I think it's called Field and Sky or something like that, Land and Sky. So this is not featured on my website, but I had the image. And then I came into it with pastels because the sky was pretty bland. And I came in with pan pastels to add the sky, and then to add more detail in where the fields are.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then also I could use the encaustics to soften everything and give that dreamy appearance to it.
That's a wonderful piece. It really is. Well, was there any other questions or comments? Was there anything else that anybody wanted to add?
I didn't
Yep.
never know where to put my hand to see something.
It's in the right place.
The monitor at our lobby is not working,
Oh,
but the receptionist does remember me arranging for the lunch in December.
okay.
I mean, I will double check, but I'm sure it's all okay. I thought you were talking about November, and that's why I'd like.
No,
Okay.
December. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's just, this is the one that the moon over the ruined castle. I think that one was just gorgeous with the music. I mean, they're all, Evangelia and Jennifer's and
Yeah.
they're all gorgeous, but this really set the tone to look at this work and to hear that music. It was just wonderful. So I agree.
Tore up the score of the music and glued it down first and then painted on top of it. So the actual words and all of the notes are in that piece.
Yeah, yeah,
in this painting.
Mm.
it's wonderful.
You know, it's too bad that Robbie Benby wasn't here because she did some beautiful portraits of women, and that had to do with the books of several of our members. And the books, what was nice in the exhibition is that they put the book near or next to the image
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she wove into each of her pieces little bits about the books. And it's too bad that she wasn't here to actually share some of the little things that she incorporated, especially in the one about No Sex and Saint Tropez.
yeah.
She had lots of different things in the background. The string that went around the figure had lots of things on that too.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize about the words that she had done that too. Some of the things that were in the book. So that was neat to discover that when viewing the the show. It's also neat though that that three of our members, you, Bev, Robbie, and Renata, had all collaborated with Roseanne Callister about
Yeah.
her book, and yet they're all three very different. So this is Robbie's. We saw Bev's earlier, and then let's see if I can just get Renata's real quick. I think, yeah,
Right.
there's the one that's Renata's. Just she did a dancer. So and took different aspects of the book as well. So that was a really neat thing that happened, just by happenstance.
You should go to the Hey Diddle Diddle ones also, since that was kind of a unique take on
Yeah.
collaborating.
Oh,
The
maybe it's,
idea to do that.
yeah.
Dawn,
So
I
the-
really loved your Egyptian take on it. I mean,
Oh.
that was so way out there. It was so
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, that was so much fun to do. So yeah, so we had this idea of coming up with a nursery rhyme because you didn't have to worry about, any copyright laws or anything since it was past 50 years and they don't have any laws on that. And so a few of us had done collaboration on the Hey Diddle Diddle, but our own takes as well. And we heard from Anne and Deb about your pieces. So you kind of did a collaboration within that group collaboration. And it's neat, and in the gallery, how they kind of separated it by doing it on one wall, and then the other part of the wall is the rest of us. And there are a couple of QR codes there too of some of the musicians that had done their own take. Sylvia did a wonderful song that she wrote where she incorporated even other nursery rhymes into her song. So yeah, I really enjoyed seeing how everybody did it differently. This is my take. And I just wanted to kind of, I was in my past life, I was an illustrator. And so I was kind of thinking, well, how could I illustrate this a little bit differently? And so I decided to do a kind of an Egyptian take on it. And this is just utilizing a lot of layers to make it look like it's kind of more old and kind of an ancient, plaque or something. So I had, I did one layer where I just did some Egyptian symbols, and then I kind of covered that over with some other paint, and then did these, I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see where I'm pointing. You did I can do this though. I did these characters. So this is the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, the little dog laughed, and the dish ran away with a spoon. So that was my kind of take on that. And my signature of embedding objects, but this time, maybe they've been in this Egyptian wall for a long time, although, some of these things are more new. There's like a SpongeBob sticker that I embedded in there, and there's a little figurine of a, so even though it's, kind of old, it's kind of maybe old versus new. But that was a lot of fun. And I'll also show you, this is Annette,
No,
Anita Burgess's, take on it. And she used, for the words, she used like Scrabble pieces in there. So that's a lot of fun. And this is Robbie, and Robbie used a lot of like, papers and things like that. So kind of her own version of this as well. So it was neat to see how everybody addressed that in a different way. So that was very fun. Anything else, guys? I hear a ding. Maybe that's we're all done, ding.
unexpected.
Any other questions or comments or anything else? Okay, I'm gonna stop my share then and go back to the entire screen. And I'm gonna press stop on the recording as well. So let me just stop recording.